Good morning, Internet land. It is Friday, Leadership Live once again. My name is Merritt Minnemeyer. I'm the founder and creator of Master of One Coaching, and we come here to you live just about every Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, and have usually some amazing special guests like I do today. My friend and colleague, Michael Passante. Hello. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Hello, Merritt. Thank you for having me here. It's very much appreciated.
We've been talking about doing this for a while, so I'm happy that you're here today. And so, Michael, you are the director of financial planning for Focus Wealth Management.
Yes.
And you have many initials after your name.
Too many. There's a lot of continuing education that goes along with it, which gets tiring sometimes.
You're an illustrious certified wealth planner and expert. And I'll let you talk a little more about that. But I think it's what is so interesting and wonderful about you is that in an ocean of people who play in the money space, that you are among a very special few who do this with purpose, with meaning, and with relationship at the forefront. You really take that very seriously, and you, as an honor and a privilege to serve your clients, and you do that at the highest level. So it's one of the many things I adore about you, and that's why I've invited you here. So I'm going to ask you first if you would just tell us a little bit about your story and who you are and how you got here.
Of course. I mean, it's a long, elaborate story, but it's funny because it almost seemed like every other path that I took, I ended up right back here, which is ironically the opposite of where my father actually wanted me to go. So just to touch on what I do a little bit, I'm the director of financial planning with Focus Wealth Management. We're a registered investment advisory firm. We're independent. We manage about $1.5 billion in assets, and we're fiduciaries. We founded this business a long time ago. My father actually founded it, and my partner, Phil D'Angelo, is the managing director of it right now. And it's a very rewarding but very demanding job because we are unlike a lot of other financial planning firms in which, we don't solicit client business a lot. Most of it comes directly from referrals. So our clients actually have to be confident enough in our abilities to pass our name along. We execute really well. We're not a sales-driven team. I am anti-sales, actually. I like to refer to myself as a personal CFO because when I hear the word broker or salesman, I almost cringe and quiver because I absolutely despise that. I'm somebody that really likes to be aligned with my clients as much as I possibly can to try to help them reach their goals. I'm a certified financial planner. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I've been a certified financial planner since the end of 2010, early 2011. So despite the fact that I'm 37 years old now, it kind of dates me in terms of where I've been throughout the industry. Certified private wealth advisor. There's only about 2,000 of those in the country. So I have an insatiable thirst for knowledge when it comes to financial planning. And it really comes along the lines of trying to help people as much as I possibly can. So that's, you know that about me. That's my big thing. I'm very much a people person, and I get a lot of gratification and satisfaction with helping people.
Mm-hmm. And so you have a great story about how, your father was in this business and he, was raising you to do something else. and that didn't go that way. So I would love to hear that story because I love that.
So, when I was in high school, I was always pretty solid in math and science and took a lot of college courses. And my father, seeing him do this and the stresses that are involved in it, he kind of tried to push me away from it. And I was looking at a lot of different schools, and he wanted me to become an engineer. And at the time, I'm 17, 18 years old. I don't really know what I want to do with myself, except the fact that I love baseball.
So much pressure we put on kids, right? To make their lifelong decisions at 17 or 18.
It's so hard. And I think it's even more pronounced now for everybody in the younger generation relative to when I was growing up. And I'm the type of person that for some reason I don't necessarily pressure doesn't bother me, and it's probably due to some of the fact that of my baseball career and being in sports and athletics. But I was just kind of going with the flow. I end up at RPI out of all the schools because it just I don't know, I got on campus there. My coach, who I still communicate with a lot, and he's been a really big influence in my life, Carl Steffen, gonna give him a shout out. I remember being on my recruiting trip up there, and something about just that atmosphere felt really comfortable to me.
Mhm.
But of course, it's a big engineering school, so I go as a chemical engineer. And in the first semester, maybe around halfway through, and I'm just kind of like slugging along, and I'm really there to play baseball, even though I'm there academically too. It was the best academic school that I also got into. And I'm sitting in this one class, Introduction to Engineering Analysis, and I'm learning how a wrench works. And I start looking around the classroom at this point, and I'm just like, man, I really don't look, I don't feel like these people. Because I'm very much like an outgoing, extroverted, social type person who likes to be involved with other people. And I'm looking around at this room of introverted engineers who really can't handle a conversation with anybody because they just want to curl up in their own shell and do math equations. Um, and I'm like, I'm not like these people. And I'm looking at the board and I'm learning how a wrench works with all these different angles. And I don't care how a wrench works. I just care that it works. So from that moment on, I walked out of that class, walked directly to the business school, changed my major, and after the fact, I called my dad. I'm like, "Yeah, I switched my major today," and it just felt like this, like kind of like a big relief, and I didn't think anything of it. And one of my best friends was actually doing it with me at the same time, so um, it just felt natural. And then I got involved more within the business and management side of things, and I gravitated towards finance. And I mean, finance has a lot of math involved in it as well, which kind of like it draws me to it because a lot of what I do centers around the mathematical things behind financial planning. So that's how. And then I went straight to grad school after playing baseball, and also coached while I was up there as well. And it was nice because in that one year I grew up a lot in terms of
Mhm.
like everything that I had to do, because I was taking extra classes just to get my graduate degree done in one year.
Mhm. So you're getting a graduate degree done in an extra year or in the same process you're in with your bachelor's, and you're also on an elite baseball team. And because this program is focused on leadership, in various aspects of what that means and iterations of in different industries, how did you find yourself? How do you find leadership playing a role, yeah, as you were moving through your college career?
Oh man, it's almost like looking back on it now, it's one of those things. One of my favorite books is oh, what's it? It's Bob Iger, um, Ride of a Lifetime.
Oh
I
yeah,
quote,
yeah, yeah.
I have talked to you about this, and I quote it all the time. And he talks about his role as the CEO of Disney and looking back at everything, and how at the time he's just like flying through all these things and executing. And then when he looks back at it, it's just like, oh my gosh, I was doing this because of that. And that's kind of how I look back at things now in a lot of the individual sessions that we have, because they're to a degree sometimes eye opening.
Mhm.
And I'm very much the type of person that leads by example. I don't like to verbalize and communicate a lot of things. And I think at certain time periods that might be a little bit of something that I need to do better. But I mean, I'm a grinder. I work really hard at just about everything that I do, and I try to execute on my entire process in the framework of everything. And sometimes that leadership quality and capability. I mean, I learned so much back then about how to assimilate within the framework of a team. And I mean, I was the captain of the RPI baseball team my senior year, and I'm still in touch and best friends with a lot of those guys that I played with back then. So that kind of tells you about the tight knit group that we actually had at that time period, which was fantastic. Those were some of the best years of my life. But baseball has always been a really important learning springboard for me. And again, looking back at it at the time, I didn't really realize or know it. And um, you learn so much about failure, right? And I
Mhm.
think that there's this big thing in the world, and I hate the word failure because I'm not in the position that I am today because of all my successes. I'm sitting here because of how I learned from everything that I did with failing. And I think that's a big leadership quality. because I don't really shut off or stop working when anything goes wrong. I basically just I keep going, and I'll run through walls in the event that I have to make like sometimes you just have that intuition, right? And we've talked about that so many times where this is going to work. You just have to keep going and pushing and driving and never stop. And I think it's very much like that. And I think those are important qualities in anybody who's in the leadership field, because you just keep grinding at what you're passionate about and what you're good at. But at the same time, I think leadership is also something that's really important, because you have to lift other people up around you and acknowledge when they need help, encouragement, try to teach them other things, and be somebody who doesn't necessarily think too negatively upon people in the time period in which they might be struggling or they might be failing, because leaders pick other people up around them. There's one thing on social media that I love, and it's the difference between a boss and a leader. And a leader is somebody who's right there on the front lines with everybody else, and a boss is somebody who's behind the scenes, kind of like barking orders at other people. And I like to think of myself more as a leader than somebody who's a boss at the end of the day. So,
well, I heard a couple of really important things there, which is things that I hear so often in my clients and in these lives over and over again. One is leading by example. That is being ready to be right there in it with people when you need to be. And then number two is like having that vision or that trust, that belief, the faith that it's going to work out, or that we're all going to learn something, right? Not everything is always going to be successful the way we think it is, but there's always going to be something to learn and improve upon. Also, failure as a component of success rather than the antithesis of it.
Yeah.
My background is largely in education, and I think we do, again, it's such a disservice to kids. At least when I was coming up and before me, and I think this is changing now too, but like, you either fail or you succeed, right? Like you get above a certain grade or you fail, and then you have to do it again, and you're punished for it, as opposed to saying, hey, let's try it out. Let's see let's test this thing out. Let's see how we can grow and improve. Because failure is a step towards success. It doesn't mean you stop, right? It means you need to keep going in a different direction.
Nobody gets 100% of things right at the end of the day. And by the way, if anybody does, I mean, they're Bernie Madoff or something like that. It just doesn't work.
Right. It's not real. Yeah, it's just not human nature, right? Our human nature is to experiment and create and grow. Yeah. And then the other thing I keep hearing over and over again is this, the connection, the relationship, the creating the team. And I know you and I have talked recently a lot about the importance of company culture. And that's the same kind of idea as creating a culture of a team that's going to succeed and thrive together and fail together and grow together. That's what company culture is all about. And I know that's an important facet of what you're doing.
That's huge, because I mean, we've been really fortunate at the end of the day to have grown this incredibly successful business. And I fully acknowledge that it's not just me doing it, and it can't be just me, right? There's other people around me who contribute to a lot of those successes. And it's important to me that these people are acknowledged, and they know basically how important they are to me, because ultimately at the end of the day, as you become busier, there's more things that are involved that you ultimately have to do, and you can't do all these things yourself. And there's a really good book that I also haven't read recently, but I absolutely want to. It's by Mark Messier. It's called No One Wins Alone. And I think that epitomizes that team aspect. And I've always been very much a team person. And a lot of that was kind of instilled in me by my father, my uncle, well, he's not really my uncle, but he always coached me playing baseball and everything. He's actually one of my cousins.
Your uncle?
I call him my uncle. We have a big family.
We have those too.
Yeah, it's important to acknowledge those people who are pivotal in your successes, right? So, and who actually like instilled that level of drive in you.
That was called No One Wins Alone. I'm just typing it into the chat here.
Mark Messier, No One Wins Alone. I haven't read it yet. I don't even own it, but it's going to be one of the next books that I read.
I think it's Messier, I think is how you spell that.
Yeah, he only won like 6 Stanley Cups in the NHL. So
only that guy.
Yeah.
Anybody in the around the northern border will know. I'm sure.
Yeah, cool. I'm really excited to actually read that, because like I said before, I'm a huge team person, and I'm those are always the sports that I was involved with. And I think, again, my sports career, even though now it seems like another lifetime ago, that was really important in crafting the person that I am today.
And your career that started when you were a kid too, right? I mean, you were really focused on baseball all the way up through college. So,
Oh, when I was really young, I always said to myself, like, did my dad push me to play baseball, or was it something that I really wanted to do at the end of the day? And I struggled with it for a period of time. And then once, one time period when I was like very young, not very young, I was done with college, and I was kind of like looking back at certain things that my parents had in the house. And I had all these old pictures and drawings of baseball fields from when I was like 4 or 5 years old. And I'm like, yeah, no, that was me. I've always had this
you're
crazy
fired up.
passion for it. And like every once in a while, my wife, Dana, she says to me, if you could just like stop everything, right, and just hit the reset button and go and do whatever you wanted to do, what would it be? And I mean, I have this insatiable passion for what I'm doing right now. I really do enjoy what I do, working with people, finding financial solutions to really, make a really big difference and impact in their lives, right? But at the end of the day, um, the good part about that is every day is different, and I think that's one of the things that drives me. It's not very, to a degree, repetitive. I mean, even it is repetitive, but it's not like mundane. You're not doing the same things, rinse, wash, repeat over and over again. Every day is different. You're having different communications with all your clients at the same time. And that's one of the reasons why I really do enjoy everything it is that I do. But at the same time period, when Dana asked me that question, I'm just like, I don't know, I'd probably be a college baseball coach.
That's awesome. Well, that actually, what you just said brings me to my next question about passion and your why. We talked about the moment, your aha moment, like when you realized that you were in the wrong place and then you wanted to move into the right place.
Yeah.
And, all the reasons that you bring the ways in which you bring your leadership experience into, what you're doing now. But as I said in the beginning, and just to remind a bit of people who are just tuning in, I'm talking with Michael Passante, who is a certified financial planner and certified
Private wealth advisor.
Thank you. I was like, what's the fee? What's the fee? And has many other titles and accolades to his name. And the reason that he's here, because I truly believe that you are, I'm one of the very special few that do this because of the difference that you make in people's lives, not just for the profit. And though you do very well and you're very successful, you're very good at what you do, we've had so many conversations about the great impact that you have in your clients' lives. And I mean, you're so generous too with your knowledge, and you've certainly been generous with me too. So, do you have a story in mind? Oh, I was going to just say, everybody out there too, if you have a question or want to comment about for Michael, please, or for me, please drop it in the chat. Do you have a story in mind or an example in mind of like a client where you're like, that was like such a good, satisfying experience where I was able to bring my best stuff to that client? And I know you probably have lots, but
I have so many success stories along that framework, and they're all in different areas too. And one of the things that I think, one of the reasons I have so many letters after my name, is because there's a lot of people within the framework of what I do, financial planning, brokers, like I said before, that I despise that word, that really only focus on one particular aspect and one particular thing. And I think that that's doing a disservice to people, to be honest with you, because, throughout the course of time, whether it be constructing like different estates and estate planning through various trusts and layering different assets from an asset protection strategy so that Medicaid can't get them, assets passed down generationally amongst a lot of other people, you can save people sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes upon the passing of an individual, or even moving assets around in the right place. You see people's net worth grow substantially throughout the course of time, and there are moments and periods where they don't necessarily realize exactly what you're doing because it can be so intricate and complex. And one of my biggest problems is that I create so much work for myself by being so articulate and diving deep into the mundane aspects of planning. It actually creates so much work. But, one of my dad's best friends, I remember years ago when I first started doing this, and even before then, because, my dad had the business for a long time, and I was always, to a an arm's length, like interning, involved, paying attention. So I think that taught me quite a bit. But you see people and you just do the right thing by them over the course of time, over and over and over again. And the life cycle of financial planning, it changes, it evolves. You go from basically the accumulation stage where you're saving money to income distribution in retirement, passing assets. I do a lot of intergenerational planning, working with parents, grandparents, all these different family members to pass wealth down amongst generations and retain and hold on to it. There's a statistic that I remember from my CPWA curriculum, and it's very difficult to pass wealth down multi-generationally past 2 generations. And if you can do that, I think that you are really successful within the framework of what you do. And we've been able to do that a number of times. And one of the best things that I do, I was talking to a client really just yesterday too, about how involved I tend to be in their lives and everything that I do. And it's just because I care a lot. A lot of my clients throughout the course of time are either people that I've known, some of them since kindergarten, like really, literally. And you just do the right thing by them over and over again. And you become so close with them because you communicate with them so much that these people are like an extension of family to me. And it's not a handful. There are a substantial amount of clients that I can say that is the case with me. And I feel like I have this obligation to do the best by them as much as I possibly can. And one of my other clients asked me at one point in time, he's like, Mike, so many people rely on you for so many things financially. Do you ever like get stressed or feel pressure about that? And I really don't. And it's weird because when as a firm you build up to this position where you manage $1.5 billion, you would think that over the course of time you would see the fluctuation in the markets, assets, and that would get to you. And it really doesn't with me, because I think that I've built everything back into like what you and I talk about all the time, is this process, right? And if you execute on the process in the financial planning framework, there are going to be periods of time where market cycles, economic cycles, things go up and down. But if you execute on the process and you do what you're supposed to without fail, things eventually have a way of working themselves out throughout the course of time. And I think it's the process that defines a lot of the success that we've had, not necessarily one or two individual things. It's the elaborate of everything.
That's such an important point. I mean, so many of the people I talk to, right, as entrepreneurs or people who are running their own businesses, we're in it largely because we want to be creative and we want to be generative and we want to have new ideas and solve problems and have that satisfaction of that overcoming the obstacle. And a lot of times we resist process because it feels like it's boring, right? It feels like, well, if I've solved the problem, then I don't have anything new to solve, right?
Yeah.
So, and yet so much of success is built on reliable processes, right? And be able to test those a little bit here and there. But I think that's something that you have become so adept at, is you've actually built your own process to a large extent based on, other things that you've learned, and you can go back to that. Yeah, I mean, failure, right? Caroline says, when you are working in line with your personal center and values, even the challenges provide lift and energy to keep going. Amen, sister. That's right.
So true.
Thank you, Caroline, for chiming in. I have a question for you, Michael, about because you are so passionate and because you do take such good care of the people that you care about, your clients that you care about. What are some of the pitfalls of that?
You know exactly what I'm going to say.
I do.
The fact that
But it's important that people hear this, because I'll tell you the reason I'm asking this. Because people that I work with are so driven on purpose, with purpose, on purpose, that we take on so much responsibility, right? We want to say, we're not just doing this for money or for myself. I'm doing this because I want to contribute. And that can be that can be kind of heavy sometimes. So I think it's important to speak to that, if you would.
It's not necessarily the heaviness, and it's really an obligation to the people that I care about, right? It's not this financial obligation. But at the same time, one of the problems is I get emails from clients like at 9:30 at night. And sometimes if it's something that I feel the obligation to answer because there might be a little bit of an issue, I do that. And I think COVID has really blurred the lines of this a little bit
Mhm.
too, because everybody's available like 24/7. And I mean, I made myself available 24/7 because in the financial field in the beginning of COVID, everybody knows what the economy and the stock markets were doing. And I'm fortunate enough to have started my career prior to 2008. And I think that makes me a little bit more of this like little bit of an enigma because I am very young in the construct of the industry in which I operate in, where most people are 55 to 60 years old and everybody wants experience. And I remember in 2006 when, you know, in 2007, I'm doing this, right? And I'm young, but I have the experience of managing people's finances and financial plans throughout the financial crisis. And that was that battle tested you, right? You realized what risk is and gives you a different perspective about a lot of things. But um, we were talking, and when COVID initially started, I knew what this was going to be like in terms of how much I was going to have to work, how long I was going to have to be on the phone to talk to people and reassure them that everything was ultimately going to be okay. And I think that perspective is a superpower when it comes to this because
Mhm.
you see these different market cycles, and that's important. But I have a hard time unplugging. And
Yeah, I think that's true for so many people who are driven to serve, you know?
yeah, I really can't do it. It's the obligation that I feel to people because if they need something, I feel like I have to be available to them. And I have a rock star, super understanding wife who, at the end of the day,
Mhm.
allows me to be me, while she's very understanding about that, even though it pulls me away from a lot of things and the obligations that I feel like I have to do with her sometimes. So
Yeah. And
that
you have
gets me
three
a
little
little bit.
boys too. So just to give you a full picture of Michael, he's got you, Dana, who's your rock star wife, and three little boys who are 6 and under.
Jacoby's 6.5. It was just his half birthday. He got a half cake the other day. He was very excited about that. And then I have Chase and Hunter, who are going to be 5 in April. They are twins.
Oh my
So
gosh.
my
I
house
guess
has a lot of energy starting
yeah,
at 5 o'clock in the morning most days.
you could have your own baseball team almost.
My hope and my dream is to have the middle infield of the baseball team at some point in time.
That's awesome.
But that's what I
Well,
want to do too. And you and I have talked about that, right? And sometimes it's hard to imagine with balancing the business and the obligation that I have to a lot of my clients and people to do the right things for them. I want to be involved in my kids' baseball
well,
and
and you did
sports.
that, right? Didn't you coach your kids' baseball team recently?
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to, but then I went to one practice and got
It's
involved in it.
like
I
the
had so
mafia,
much
they
fun
just
with
pull you
it.
back in.
Yeah, I'm going to get pulled back in no matter
Yeah.
what. I'll probably be coach for both of them if I can, or not both of them, but both teams. Not both of them because there's three of them.
That must be starting up, right? Pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm really
Mhm.
excited. Chase and Hunter will be involved in baseball this year for the first time. So that's really
Oh,
exciting.
that's so exciting. Good, good. Well, we're at the part of the program where I ask our guests if you have one golden nugget of wisdom to offer to our audience today, what would that be?
So I'm the type of person that really believes in if you do the right people or if you do the right thing by people, the right things will actually circle back and good things will happen to you at the end of the day. And I'm very passionate about what I do. I care a lot about my clients. I care a lot about the process that we've created because it's been able to bring a lot of success to us. So it's not just, like I said before, it's not just one or two things that have resulted in us ending up here, even though a lot of it does feel like I was going to end up here, no matter which path that I realistically tried to take. But I really do believe if you do the right thing by people and if you're transparent and honest and communicate. I have a little sticker on
Mhm.
my computer monitor that says consistency, confidence, and honesty. Thanks to 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago when we were
2 weeks ago,
talking.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Full disclosure,
Um,
Michael and I work together on a regular basis, so.
oh yeah, obviously. And that is important to me. When there's a little bit of an issue, you don't run from it, you run to it, and you solve these problems for
Mm,
people. You work alongside them. And, sometimes I say that some people say you work for your clients. Yeah, you do because they are your clients. I like to say I work with my clients
mhm.
because I'm somebody who's aligned right there with them, trying to get them across the finish line to their financial goals. And it's been so rewarding to see the development of this throughout the course of time with people whose net worths have grown substantially. And it's super rewarding. I really think that I have a huge impact on a lot of people's lives by doing that. And it makes me feel that sense of purpose that we talked about before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super rewarding at the end of the day. Melissa, who is going to be a guest actually in a few weeks, says balance is so important. And you can see she also is the mom of boys over there. She's got two littles that are going to be on the heels of your kids in a minute. And Caroline is asking, the second word, consistency, blank, and honesty. She wanted to know what the second word there was.
Confidence, consistency, confidence, and honesty. Confidence in the process and in everything that you're doing.
Mm-hmm. And confidence, not right. I talked a little bit about the confidence, arrogance balance or line last week. Confidence meaning that I'm going to do my best, that I'm going to show up the best I can. If I screw up, I'm going to take care of it. Right. It's not that I know all or can be all. It's that I'm going to do the best I can. Right.
Yeah. You have to believe in yourself. It's not like this pompous arrogance, which I think that a lot of people in my industry actually have, especially the successful people, because I refuse to allow myself to transition and turn into that. It's basically the confidence that you have that you can do things right for people. And you also have to acknowledge that finance is a whole nother language to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And they don't understand it. They're never taught it. You don't gain this knowledge without actively seeking it out yourself. So most people are almost afraid of it, and largely because they don't understand it. And I think that can be a really empowering thing when you educate people about finance and make them feel more self-sufficient and give them the confidence to ask their own questions about certain things. I was talking to one of my clients late last week, and she knew nothing about any of this stuff long time ago. And we were having a conversation about like estate planning, asset protection, and I devised different strategies to save them a lot of money, like 6 figures probably worth of money. And I could tell when we were talking that, she came right to me with this question right away, but I could tell that ultimately she felt really proud of herself for being able to ask that question. And she sees it, right? She's okay. I have this issue. I need to ask Mike. And we talk through everything. We figure this stuff out. We start the planning process with just another side of just her own individual financial plan. And at the end of the conversation, I can see how like rewarded she is because she feels like she did the right thing. And I've known her probably almost 15 years now. And I could see right away how everything evolved and it has changed so much, because 15 years ago, she would have not had the wherewithal or knowledge to ask that question.
Well, I think that's such a beautiful example of leadership and relationship right there, because you have, through your leadership in her life around this, the areas of finance, you have given her the tools that she can actually execute or be empowered enough to ask the questions she needs to ask and understand her world that way, in a way that other people just wouldn't bother, because they say, I'll just take care of it for you. Right. Yeah. And then that just empowers the client. It's the same in my world too. Like, that's I think that you and I get along so well and have so much in common that way. It's like we're always seeking new tools for ourselves to get better at stuff, and then help our clients, give them the tools so they can get better at stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Always. It's like you're always looking for that next thing.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we're about at the end of our time here. So Mike, how do people reach out to you
So there's a lot of information on our website. And again, our firm is Focused Wealth Management. Our website is www.focusedwealth, FOCUSEDWEALTH, like short for management.com. My partner, Phil, and I also do this really awesome thing that we're both really proud of. It's called 2 Question Tuesday with a lot of our clients, where in the beginning of pandemic, when we couldn't get in front of people, we basically just started cranking out videos every Tuesday. We would just compile questions from clients. So like all of those old videos and market related type of intricacies are on right on that website too. My email address is mpassante@focusedwealthmgmt.com. It should be on our website.
I think it is, yeah. I'm going to try to put it in here. I'm not a great typist, but mgmt.com. Okay, there we go. And I know that you are so generous again with your time and your advice and your knowledge. So please feel free to reach out to Michael if you have any questions, or I definitely would recommend the 2-Question Tuesday. There's such a wealth of, no pun intended or pun intended, of information there. It's just remarkable what you all are doing. And I'm just so appreciative of you being here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's always awesome to spend time with you.
So much love.
All right.
All right, everybody. And if you have more questions or interest in what we do over here at Master of One Coaching, working with leaders and entrepreneurs to command their energy and do right by people, planet, and place in the world, please join us at masterofonecoaching.com. There's a great free training there called the Genius Training. And we do have ongoing programs, which you can sign up for our newsletter and join us. So we'll see you over there. And we'll see you also next week on Leadership Live Friday, every Friday here at 10 o'clock Eastern. Thanks so much for watching.